Kelly Grace. Thanks for being here this morning. I'm here with Sue, who's going to be demoing the class, taking the class, doing the class. We have a 75-minute mixed level towards intermediate level class. We're going to be working on some pretty big poses today, and I want to offer several different variations so that you can find the path that's right for you. One of the things, one of the reasons that I want to work some of these bigger poses is because we're in the times that we're in, and these poses require some courage. And I want to encourage you to dig deep into your practice and really find that courage to step up and try some of these poses out. If there are things that you haven't seen before, then take it easy on yourself. Recognize that these are maybe different poses that are new to you. If they're familiar to you, maybe you can take it a little further. Maybe you can try some new things today. And so our yoga practice is all about finding strength, the strength to be courageous in times when things are not as smooth as we would like them to be. And so as we work today, we're going to work some arm balances, and I'll try to offer steps. I encourage you to get off the bus at the right bus stop, as Christina Sell says. But I encourage you also to see where that line is, where you can courageously step forward on your mat and offer the gifts that you have to offer in a time where things are unknown. So go ahead and take a nice seat. Close your eyes and we'll get right to it. Settle in and focus on your breath. Begin by simply noticing the inhalation and the exhalation and the quality of your breath. And then into that, bring Ujjayi breath, constrict the back of the throat slightly, make that sound breath. Take 2 more deep breaths. Bring your hands to heart center at the end of your exhale. Lift your chest. And bow your head. Release your hands and lift your chin and open your eyes. So if you have props today, we're going to use 2 blocks and a strap. If you don't have props, maybe you can find some substitution for 2 blocks and a strap, but if you don't have props at all, don't worry. I have some options built in so that you don't have to use the props. And start lying on your back, please. So lay on your back and just pause here. Draw your right knee into your chest and interlace, or take your hands around the front of your shin. You can keep your left leg straight, or if it's better, you can bend your left leg. Depends on what feels good to you. And then take your right knee a little wider towards the armpit, so you have like a wider leg. Release your left leg down. Right leg down, sorry. Draw your left leg in. Engage your feet. Tone the top of your left quad, the top of your left kneecap, and your front of your left thigh. And then take your left knee slightly wider towards your armpit. Then release your left leg. Put both feet flat on the floor with your knees bent. Put your right ankle on top of your left knee. You can stay here. Stage 1 is here. If you want to go further, bring your left knee in towards your chest. Interlace your hands behind the back of your thigh or around the front of your shin, whatever feels good to you. If your right elbow is touching your right thigh, you can use your elbow to gently move your knee and your thigh towards the front of your mat. Release your leg and switch sides. Take your left ankle on top of your right knee. Pull your knee in towards your chest. You can take the back of your thigh or the front of your shin. And again, you can use your left elbow to externally rotate your left hip and take your knee more towards the front of your mat. Exhale and release that. Draw your right knee in towards your chest. Interlace your hands behind the back of your thigh. Straighten your right leg up towards the ceiling. You can keep your left leg bent or straight. This is option 1. If you want to go further, you can grab your strap, put it around the ball of your foot. Oh, sorry, Sue. So that's option 2. And then if you want to go even further, you can take your hands to the ball of your foot or grab your big toe, whatever feels best for you. And again, you can keep your left leg bent or straight. Tone your outer right hip and externally rotate your right hip towards the front of your mat as you did when you had your elbow to your thigh, if your elbow is to your thigh. Exhale, firm your outer right hip and take your foot over to the right. If you have your strap, take both straps into your right hand and you can take your left hand on your left hip or take your left hand wide. Tone your outer right hip. Inhale, come back to center. And then exhale, release your right foot down. Draw your left knee into your chest. You can interlace your hands behind the back of your thigh and straighten your left leg. If you want to go further, you can take your strap to the ball of your foot. And of course, if you want to go further, you can grab your big toe or the outer edge of your foot here. Tone your outer left hip. Tone the front of your right thigh. Pull up from your right kneecap in towards your hip. Your right leg can be bent or straight. On your next exhale, take your leg over to the left. If you have a strap, take both straps into your left hand and open your leg out to the left. Even here, tone your outer left hip, hug it in, press your right thigh down, and tone the right top of the front of the right thigh. One more breath here. At the bottom of your exhale, bring your leg up and release your foot. And then roll over to your side, come on to hands and knees. Walk your knees back 3 or 4 inches and come into downward facing dog. Press your hands down and forward, take the tops of your thighs back, root your heels towards the mat. Look between your hands and step your right foot to the outside of your right hand. Spin your back heel down and walk your hands to the left about 45 degrees. So your hands are down dog hands, your legs are warrior 2 legs for a down dog lunge. Press your hands down and forward. Your hands can be up on fingertips or flat, palms flat, if you would like a little bit more extension through the hands and through the spine. And then inhale, walk your hands forward, lift your back heel up, put your back knee down on the floor. Walk your back knee back a little bit so you get longer from your right heel to your right knee. So option 1 here is on your fingertips. You can stay here. Option 2 is to put your forearms on a block or on something that is acting as a block for you. And then stage 3 is all the way down to the floor if you want to take it all the way down. And Sue's going to be graciously demoing all three of the options.
I
as we
feel
go along.
like a flight attendant.
I know, right? I was thinking that too.
To all my flight attendant friends, I now get it.
Hug your right knee in towards your right ribs. Drag your right heel towards your back knee and press down through your back foot. And tuck your toes for me, Sue. Yeah. Draw your left foot towards the right side of your mat. Yeah, good. Come back up onto your hands. And walk your back knee forward so that you have two 90-degree angles with your knees. Right knee and left knee in a 90-degree angle. Point your back foot back. And then you can come to the same poses, either hands on the floor, forearms to blocks, or forearms to floor. So just a slightly different angle here with the back knee walked in. Back knee down. Inhale, come up onto your hands and come back into down dog. Once you're there, put your right ankle on top of your left knee for down dog figure 4. Press your hands down and forward. Rotate your knee to the right, externally rotate your hip. And the deeper you want to go, you can create that deeper flexion by bending your left knee. Put your right leg down. Look between your hands, step your left foot to the outside of your left hand. Spin your right heel down, down dog lunge. Walk your hands 45 degrees or so to the right. Make your legs really strong and stable. Push down through the legs and press out through the hands. Inhale, walk your hands forward, spin your back heel up, put your back knee down on the mat. And then you can walk your back knee back so that you have a little more distance between your front heel and your back knee. Then you have option 1 on hands, option 2 on forearms on blocks, option 3, forearms to the floor. So we're going to be working a pose today that requires a lot of hugging in towards the body. So the left knee hugs in towards the ribs so that you get the inner thigh to engage. Now drag your front heel towards your back foot and then drag your right foot towards the left side of your mat until your inner thigh engages as well. On an inhale, come up onto your hands. Walk your back knee forward, 2 90-degree angles with your knees. And point your back toe back for this one. Good. And then again, stay up on hands, come onto blocks on forearms, or come all the way down to the floor. And I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but drag your back heel towards your front heel towards your back knee. Hug your left knee in towards your body. And then as much as possible with the foot point and drag your right foot towards the left side of your mat. So it doesn't move, it just engages towards the left side of the mat. Inhale, come up onto your hands. Exhale, downward facing dog. Once you're there, bring your left ankle to the top of your right knee. Rotate your knee towards the back of your mat. Tone your outer left hip. Bend your right knee as deeply as you would like so that you can start to get into the outer hip. At the bottom of your exhale, release your left foot down. Inhale, come forward into plank, top of a push-up. Press your hands down, drag them away from one another, and then pull your hands towards your feet and your feet towards your hands until your lower belly engages. Now bring your right knee to your right elbow. Yes, step it back. Bring your right knee to your right armpit, up high. On the outer edge of your right armpit, yeah, step it back. And then bring your right knee to your right armpit again. This time, press your knee up towards the ceiling as if you were going to touch the ceiling with the outer right side of your knee. Good, and draw it in, step it back. Whoa. Second side, here we go. Come into plank if you came into down dog. Left knee, left elbow. Step it back. Left knee, left armpit. Outer edge of the armpit, yep. Step it back. Now here we go. Keep your hips level in plank. Take your left knee high, 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 high to the armpit, and then press through the outer edge of your left knee up towards the ceiling, and then step it back. And then downward facing dog. Place your knees down on the floor and lay on your back. Bend your knees, put your feet on the floor if they're not there already, and then draw your knees in towards your chest, but keep them wide. Keep your feet wide as well. All right, now reach your hands in between your legs towards your toes. Put your elbows to the inside of your knees with your arms straight, like you can squeeze your arms with your knees. Keep your feet separated and let go of your feet. Release your feet, yeah. Now we're gonna curl up here. So you're gonna reach your hands in between your feet, and you're gonna curl your head and your chest up. Squeeze your knees towards your arms, but keep your feet wide. Good. Exhale, inhale and release. We're gonna do it 4 more times. Exhale and curl up. Well, you're going to do it because I'm not doing it. Inhale, release. Exhale, curl up. Inhale, release. 1 more time. Exhale, curl, hold here. Squeeze your knees so that your knees are touching your elbows. Hug it in, and then release. Good, put your feet down. Take a couple breaths here. And then you can either roll over and come to standing, or you can rock and roll and stand up. And come facing the long edge of your mat. Yeah. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Good to see you. So we're going to do most of our standing poses, not all, but most of our standing poses from this long edge of the mat. Yeah, if you'll put those blocks actually on the other side of your mat so that they'll be handy for maybe some poses we need. May or may not need them. All right, so come standing in Tadasana in the middle of your mat. Tadasana is inner edges of the feet together, hands down alongside your body, palms forward. Bring your hands towards one another to touch fingertips. And you can either step or jump your feet apart. Check that your wrists are over your ankles. And then turn your left toes out. And bend your left knee to a square. Warrior 2. Drag your feet together. So we're going to work here for a moment to really get the legs on board and get the legs powerful and engaged. So drag your feet together. Pull from your feet up into the core of your pelvis. Once you have all of that, push from your hips down through the bones of your legs. Look at your left knee. Make sure that it's stacked on top of your left ankle. And then press the left knee out over the second and third toe as if you were doing that plank leg lift up towards the ceiling until your outer left hip engages. Keep your arms lifted, straighten your left leg, turn your left toes in, and turn your right toes out. Bend your right knee to a square, or stack the knee on top of the ankle. And again, we're going for engagement here, so drag your feet together. Pull from your feet up towards the core of the pelvis, like you're going to suck your mat up towards the ceiling. And then from your pelvis, push down through the bones of your legs. Move your knee out over your second and third toe if it's not there already, so that your outer hip is engaged. Straighten your right leg. Turn your right toes in. Turn your left toes out. Bend your left knee to a square. Put your right hand on your hip and bring your left forearm to your thigh. Tone your legs like we just did. Drag them towards one another. From your feet, pull up into the core of the pelvis. From the pelvis, push down through the bones of the legs. Now bring your left ribs towards your right ribs to turn up towards the ceiling. Press down through your left elbow. Take your top arm up and over your ear, along your bicep along the ear. From your outer foot, press all the way through the fingertips. Reach through the fingertips. Inhale and come up back into Warrior 2, arms out. Straighten your left leg. Turn your left toes in. Turn your right toes out. Bend your right knee to a square, Warrior 2. Take your left hand to your hip. Put your right forearm on your thigh. Drag your feet together. From your feet, pull up into the core of your pelvis. Tone your outer right hip. Then from your pelvis, push down through the bones of your legs. Turn your right ribs towards your left ribs. Good. Yeah. Notice if your right shoulder rolls forward, roll the bottom shoulder back. Take your top arm up and over your ear. So we're going to take time here in these standing poses to really establish the work of the legs. You're going to need it later. Check in with your left thigh and tone from the left kneecap. Pull up and tone the whole front of the left thigh. Press through the outer edge of your back foot. Reach through your top fingertips. Good. Inhale, stand up, warrior two. Straighten your right leg. Turn your right toes in. Turn your left toes out. We're going to keep your legs straight. We're going to go into triangle pose. If you don't have blocks, I'm going to offer options here. But reach your left fingertips towards the left side of the room. Reach, 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 reach. When you can't reach anymore, then you put your left hand on your, you can put it on your shin like Sue did. You can put it on a block on the outside of your foot, or you can put it on the floor. If your hand, take your right arm up. If your hand is on your shin, bend your knees slightly, your left knee slightly. Yeah, good. And draw press down through the ball of your left foot as if you're pushing on the gas pedal of your car. And then put your toes down. Now turn your left ribs towards your right ribs. Reach through the right hand, bend your left knee a little, and look down at your left foot and stand up. Yeah, good. Turn your left toes in. Turn your right toes out. Firm your right thigh. Reach through the right fingertips. Reach long, 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 long. And when you can't reach anymore, put your left hand on your hip, right hand to shin, block, or floor. If you have your hand on your shin, it's really important to bend your knee slightly and add a little bit of pressure to your hand so that you're not pressing into the shin really hard. Take your right ribs towards your left ribs. Take your left arm up. Trikonasana, triangle pose. If you have a tendency to pop your ribs forward, draw them back. Reach through your left hand and stand up. Put your hands on your hips. Turn your right toes in. Walk your feet closer together so they're about outer hip distance apart. Heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe. Bend your knees. Good. Bend your knees deep. So stage one is here in a squat. Now drag your feet towards one another until your inner thighs turn on. Then put your hands on the outsides of your knees and push your knees into your hands. Walk your feet a little closer, Sue, just a smidge. There we go, right there. Good. So you have the inner edge of the inner thighs firing by dragging feet towards one another. Outer hips firing by pressing into the hands. Keep that. You can stay here. You can return to hips or straighten your arms up overhead and take an even deeper squat. So you can go as deep as you want to go. You can start to bring the thighs parallel. If that doesn't work, you keep the hips up slightly. But keep that action of dragging the feet together and pressing the knees apart. Put your hands on your hips. Stand up slightly. Wiggle your feet out wide. Prasarada, take your arms out wide actually and check that wrists are over ankles. And then hands back to hips. Fold forward. Prasarada Padottanasana. You can put your hands on the floor. You can put your hands on blocks. So your Prasarada might not look quite as deep as Sue's Prasarada. And that is fantastic. You go where you need to go, but do the same action. Drag your feet towards one another. Tone your legs a lot. Yeah, she's got length through the torso there. I feel like a sports broadcaster. You can see the length that she's got in her torso there. All right, good. Bend your knees slightly. Put your hands on your hips and stand up. Okay, check your distance again. Make sure your wrists are over your ankles. Turn your left toes out. We're going to go through this sequence again. Bend your left knee to a square, warrior two. Drag your feet together. Tone your legs. Put your right hand on your right hip. Yes. And put your left hand to the inside of your left foot. Now you can go back to thigh, hand to thigh if you need to. You can go back hand to thigh. You can put your hand on a block, but hand to the inside of the foot. Now press your knee into your arm and then your arm into your knee. Turn your left ribs towards your right ribs and stretch your top arm up and over your ear. Good. Exhale, come to warrior two. So come on up, arms out, stretched. Straighten your left leg. And then reach your left hand towards the left. This time you're gonna take a C clasp. So Sue's gonna make a C with her hand, and she's gonna put her hand on her ankle with a C clasp, if you can get down there. Otherwise, put your hand on your shin. And press your ankle down and forward with your hand. Then turn your left ribs towards your right ribs. Take your shoulder blades onto your back. Draw your lower belly in and up. Reach your top arm up. Trikonasana. Triangle pose. Tone your outer left hip. Press down through your legs. Reach up through your left hand and bend your left knee slightly. Stand up. Good. And then turn your right toes in. Turn your left toes out. Warrior two. Bend your right knee to a square. Great. Drag your feet together. Make sure your right knee is stacked on top of your ankle. And then left hand to hip, and you can either put forearm to thigh or hand to the inside of your foot on a block or on the floor. Once you're there, press your knee into your arm and your arm into your knee. Turn your right ribs towards your left ribs. Take your top arm up and over your ear. From your outer left foot, press down into the mat and reach all the way through your fingertips. Take your left arm straight up. Stand up into warrior two. Straighten your right leg. Reach your right fingertips forward, triangle pose. You can either put your hand on your shin again if that works for you, or take a C grip and press your foot down and forward. Turn your right ribs towards your left ribs. Take your top arm straight up. And then look at your right foot and stand up. Bend your right knee and stand up. Good. Turn your right toes in. Walk your feet in a little bit closer. We're going to do a squat again, so get pretty close. Outer hip distance apart. Set your second toe in line with the middle of your ankle. Put your hands on your hips. Bend your knees. Stage one is here. Hug your legs towards one another, and then put your hands on your outer knees and push your knees apart. Stay here or stretch your arms up overhead. Stay here or take a deeper squat. Good. Inhale, stand up. Nice smile. Excellent. Put your hands on your hips. Step your feet wider for Prasarita Padottanasana. Set your second toe in line with your middle of your ankle here. And then inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, fold forward. Again, your hands can go on blocks. They can go on the floor. If it's accessible to you, at this point, you're going to walk your hands back towards your heels. So point your fingertips forward, Sue. Fingertips forward. Yeah, walk them forward a little bit more towards your head. Yeah, there we go. So you have bent elbows, but fingertips in line with heels. I can be clearer about that, can't I? There we go. Now, same action. Hug your knees and feet towards one another. And then remember the action of the outer hips engaging. Recreate that here so you have this courageous power in the legs as you press down from the hips all the way down through the feet. All right, inhale, bend your knees slightly, put your hands on your hips and stand up. Take your arms wide, check your distance again, make sure your wrists are under your ankles, you haven't gone kind of wayward and funny there. And then turn your left toes out, bend your left knee to a square. We've been here before, warrior two. Take your right hand to your hip, and you have options, forearm to thigh, hand to inside of the foot. Or if you want to take it a little bit further, with your hand to the inside of your foot, walk your hand around the back of your heel. Good, like Sue's got her hand here. You can stay here. If you want to go further, flatten your hand. You can stay here. If you want to go further, come up on, lift the heel of the left foot. Yeah, good. You can stay here. There might be an option for some folks to be able to lift their foot up off the floor and squeeze their calf into their arm. And if it's not an option, it's not an option. Then that's great. You can work the work there so that you come into a modified Vishvamitrasana. All right, so if your leg is up, put it down. Bend your left knee, and then come up into a warrior two. Yeah, good. All right, straighten your left leg, turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out, bend your right knee to a square. Second side. Parsvakonasana, forearm to thigh. Put your left hand on your hip, forearm to thigh, or hand to inside of the foot. If you want to go further, you scoochie your right shoulder underneath your knee, put your hand flat. You can stay here, press through the back edge of the foot a lot, or try to, and you can stay here or start to lift the heel up. Yeah, good. And perhaps some of you can lift your heel up so much that you can start to take your heel towards the inner edge of your arm. Don't lift it, don't force it. Let it be. All right, put your heel down and come, walk your arm forward, come into warrior two.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, warrior two. And straighten your right leg. Good. Turn your right toes in. Step or jump your feet together. Hands alongside your hips. Tadasana. Set your feet a little bit to hip distance and parallel. Bend your knees. Put your hands on your hips. Take your right ankle to the top of your left knee for a standing figure four. How are we doing? All right. Flex your toes. Tone your outer right hip. Release your right leg down. Bend your knees. Put your left ankle on top of your right knee. Flex your foot. Yeah, you might need your arms out for balance. Hug your inner thighs together here like we've been practicing. Tone your outer hips like we've been practicing. Put your hands on your hips and stand up. Great. Set the inner edges, or put your fingertips together. Step or jump your feet wide. Make sure your wrists are over your ankles. Turn your right toe in deeply. Right toe in deeply, yep. Turn your left toes out, pointing straight ahead. Put your hands on your hips. You can walk your back foot in a little bit if you need to. Straighten both legs. Tone your kneecaps. Press down through the ball of your left foot. You can stay upright, or if you want to go further, you can fold forward. Stage one is here with hands on hips. Option two, stretch your arms out in front alongside your ears. Option three is bring your palms together. You can stay here or you can do little taps. Bring your fingertips down towards the mat so that you tap down towards the mat and come up 3 times. Yep. After the 3rd time, exhale, put your hands on the floor. You can use blocks if you need blocks. You can step your feet in. You can bend your left knee a little or a lot if you need to. Now look at the front of your left toes and walk your back foot in and come into standing splits. Walk your hands forward, lift your back leg up. Hug your inner thighs together, hug your outer hips together. Turn your right toes down towards the mat. Yes, you want squared hips. You can stay here. If you're feeling saucy this morning and want a little extra activity, then you can put your hands down on the floor, bend your left knee, lift your heel up, and give little handstand kicks, or maybe big handstand kicks. Little handstand hops. Little hops count. Yeah, good, Sue. Awesome. Keep that right leg strong and steady as you kick. Good, yes. All right. So now you're going to step your right leg back into Parsvottanasana. So step it way back. Good, yeah. Bend your left knee slightly, put power through the legs, put your hands on your hips, and stand up. Great, turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out, come forward or towards the front of your mat, and then turn your left toes in deeply, turn your right toes out, hug your inner thighs together, tone your outer hips, and on an exhale with your hands on your hips, fold forward. Bring your chest in line with your pelvis, perhaps. That's just a guide, but perhaps not. Press down through the ball of your right foot. Hug your inner thighs together. Stage one is here with your hands on your hips. You can stretch your arms alongside your ears if you want to go further. Tone the right thigh, so the front of the right thigh. Draw the kneecap up and towards the hip. Palms together if you want to go further, and 3 finger taps. You can reach down and come up on an inhale. Do it slowly. Exhale, come down, tap. Inhale, up. And exhale, come down, tap. Inhale, up. Good. Release your hands and place your hands on the floor for Parsvottanasana. If you need blocks, use them. Then look forward and step your back leg up. Standing splits. Hug your inner thighs together. More inner thighs, Sue. There you go. Yeah, roll it down. Make sure your hands are underneath your shoulders. If you're going to go for handstand kicks, look forward, come up on the ball of your foot, lift your heel up, press up through the top leg, and give little kicks, just little kicks. Every little kick counts. Yeah, good. 1, 2, 1 more, 3. Nice. Oh, nice. Good. And step back into Parsvottanasana. Right foot forward, left leg back. Bring your hands to your hips. Tone your legs. Yes. Stand up. Great. Turn your left toes out, right toes in. Come towards the center of your mat. And keep your feet wide. Lift your chest up. Exhale, fold forward. Prasarita. Padottanasana again. Put your hands on the floor. So keep this Prasarita pretty narrow. In fact, so walk your feet in just a smidge. Yep. Now you can stay here if you want to stay here. If you want to go further, walk your hands back so that your fingers are in line with your heels pointing forward. Yes, good. Now remember way back in our core section when we were squeezing our knees into our elbows, you're going to do that same squeeze, but this time you're going to sit. Sit back and put your butt on the tops of your arms. It's odd. Yeah, hands flat, sit back. Good. Push down into your hands, squeeze your knees. You don't have to be too, it's gonna be a little wide. It's gonna feel a little bit awkward. Any pain in the knees, then bring your feet in closer. Good, and then stretch your hips up and come into a wide or a wide Uttanasana. We're gonna do that one more time. So walk your hands, ideally fingertips in line with heels, but they may not get that far and that's fine. Press your knees into your arms. Bend your elbows, get your palms flat if you can, and just sit your butt, your thighs really, back on the back of your arms. Lift your chin out of your chest. Good. Hug your legs towards one another like we did in the squats before. Hug your inner thighs and then tone your outer hips. One more breath. And then exhale, lift your hips, wide Uttanasana. Bend your knees, put your hands on your hips. Elbows towards one another, shoulders up towards the ceiling. Inhale, stand up. Good deal. Set your inner edges of your feet together. Pause for a drink of water.
Yes. And allergies.
And allergies.
I noticed all the primrose are in bloom this week.
I don't know what those are.
The little tiny pink
Oh, okay.
flowers.
All right, so come to the center of your mat. Inner edges of the feet together. Take your hands out in Tadasana, palms forward. Draw your right knee up into your chest. Put your hands on your hips, or whatever you need to do to balance here. Stretch your right leg forward until your right thigh engages. In fact, take your right hand and just touch your quad and say like, hello, are you working? Should be engaged. And then bend your knee and put your right leg down. Set your feet. Take your left knee up. Tone your legs, tone your outer hips for stability, inner thigh for stability, and then straighten your left leg forward. Check in with your left quad, give it a little touch. Is it working? Is it engaged? Should be, hopefully. And then bend your left leg and put it down. Take your right knee in towards your chest. Put your hand on the outside of your right thigh or knee. Press your hand into your knee in your hand, and open your knee out to the right. So provide some resistance. Pull your toes up towards your shin. Yeah, provide some resistance. Then switch your hand to the inside of your thigh and provide resistance as you come back. Good. And then put your right leg down. Second side. Bring your left knee into your chest. Press your hand to the outside of your thigh and your thigh into your hand, and open your knee out to the left. Switch your hand to the inner edge of your knee or thigh and press it back in. Put your left leg down. Good. So that's an option. That's option one. You can stay there if you want to stay there. We're going to do some straight leg variations if you want to do straight leg variations. But you can always go back to what we just did. Set your feet. Here we go. Tone your legs. Draw your right knee into your chest. And then you can either stay with where we were at and use your hand as resistance, or take the big toe, or take the outer edge of your foot. If you have the outer edge of your foot, straighten your leg forward first. And then out to the side. If you come out, just come back in. Hug your outer hips, hug your inner thighs.
No.
Bend your right leg and come back towards the center. When you're there with your right leg up, stretch your right leg forward. Tone that quad, because we're going to need it in a minute, and bend your right leg down. Second side. Take your left knee in, or up, sorry. And then you can either grab your foot or grab your big toe. And then straighten forward first. Put your right hand on your hip, Sue. Does that help?
No.
No. Okay.
No, not for me.
Right hand on your hip if you want. And then open your leg out to the left. Straight or bent. Back to center. And then release. Good. All right, so we're going to do one more thing with the thighs. So go ahead, stand with your feet hip distance and parallel or together. Take your right leg into your chest again. Straighten your right leg. Get that quad work in again. Bend your right leg. Put it down. Second side, left knee in. Straighten your left leg. Bend your left leg and put it down. Good. All right, so take your feet hip distance, slightly wider than hip distance, a little closer together, a little closer together. We're going to do some of those Uttanasana sits again. Put your hands on your hips. Bend your knees deeply. Place your hands on the floor and scoochie your elbows behind your knees. Put your hands on the backs of your calves even to get yourself deep in the squat. Put your hands on the floor behind your heels or to the inside of your heels and sit on the backs of your arms. Palms flat, fingertips forward. Palms flat, fingertips forward, good. And scoochie your feet together. Stage 1 is here. Stage 2, cross right ankle on top of left. Or inner edges of the feet together. Good. And then come down and take your hips up. Bhujapidasana, Uttanasana from here. Straighten your legs. Let's try it again. So set your feet, scoochie your shoulders under, take your hands to the backs of your heels or to the insides of your feet, and then sit back, hands flat, fingertips forward. You can put your hands on blocks. We'll do that for the next round. And then either touch your feet together or cross your ankles. Good. And then put your feet down, lift your hips up. Uttanasana, wide Uttanasana. Inhale, lengthen, look forward. Exhale and bow. Put your hands on your hips, bend your knees and stand up. Sue, do you mind showing it with blocks one time? Is that okay?
I don't know that my wrist can handle it.
Can you just demo what it looks like?
Yeah.
You don't have to pick your feet up. So if you're struggling with this is a hard pose. There is no doubt about it. This is a hard pose. Some of us, for proportions reasons or whatever, need to put our hands on blocks. So as we go forward, you can always put your hands on blocks behind your heels. And so you don't have to do the pose, but this way you can see Sue sits back and she's got a little bit more height and she may be able to pick her feet up. It really just depends on the person if you need the blocks, but I wanted her to demo that so that you have that option as we go forward.
I haven't done that one in a while.
Yeah.
On blocks.
All right, good. So come on up to standing in the middle of your mat. Set your feet together. Inhale, take your arms up, interlace your fingers, point your pointer finger up, reach up. Exhale over to your right. Crescent. Push down through your left foot. Take your hips to the left. Inhale, center. Reach up. Exhale to the left. Inhale, center. And exhale to the right. Inhale, center. And exhale to the left. Okay, come back center. Release your hands. Have a seat on your mat. Yeah, sit down. Woo. Baddha Konasana. So bend your knees, put the soles of your feet together. If you need a little height, so Sue, if you don't mind demonstrating, you can sit on something. You can sit on a block. I don't like sitting on a block, but you
I
might.
don't either.
Yeah, sit on a blanket if you need a little bit of height in Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet together. You can have your hands behind your hips to begin with to lift the chest. You can stay here. This is option 1. If you want another option, then you place your hands on your ankles. Wherever you're at, lift your knees up towards the ceiling to engage the inner thighs, then tone your outer hips, and as if your hands were on the outer edges of your knees, slowly press your knees outside to side with that imagined resistance of your hands so that your outer hips engage, and it's not just a passive action. You can stay here, or if you want, you can fold forward if that feels good to you. It just depends on you. And then inhale, come up. Take your feet wide with your knees bent and your heels on the floor. You can be on or off your blanket, depends on what feels right for you. Place your hands behind your back and lift your chest. So this is stage 1. You can stay here. If you want to go further, start to straighten your legs a little. Before you straighten them completely, if you want to go further, put your elbows into the edges of your knees. Put your hands on the floor. Stick your butt back, wiggle your butt back, and you can stay here. If you want to go further, start to straighten your legs. When you start to feel a curve around in the lower back, then pause there. You can release your elbows if you want and straighten your arms forward, or you can keep your knees and elbows joined. Uttanasana. Then inhale, walk your hands back. We're going to do this 3 times. So bend your knees, use your hands to help bend your knees, point your toes up towards the ceiling, put your hands on the floor, press your elbows into your knees into your elbows, and then you can start to straighten your legs, stick your butt back, and start to straighten your legs. Once you've gotten to that point where you're like, I'm good, my lower back is starting to round, then you can release the elbows from the knees and start to walk your hands forward. Tone the tops of the thighs, tone your outer hips. We've been working those actions the whole time. Then drag your feet towards one another isometrically. They don't move, but drag them in. Breathe here. Inhale, walk your hands back. Take your hands behind your knees, bend your knees. We're going to do it one more time. All right? Hands to the floor. Squeeze your knees into your elbows and start to straighten your legs. Squeeze them in, squeeze them in. Once you get as far as you're going to get, then you pause there. You can release your elbows and reach your arms forward. Tone the tops of the kneecaps. Hug your feet towards one another so the whole leg engages. Inner thigh engages, outer hip engages. And then inhale, walk up. Bend your knees slightly. Put your hands behind the backs of your knees. Draw your knees in. Come into a squat. So take your feet wide. Just a regular old squat. Bend hips down towards the floor, elbows to the insides of your knees. Palms together. Take your right hand down to the mat. You can take your left hand to your hip. You can leave it where it is. You can open it up, but twist towards the left. And take your right arm up. Sorry, that was really confusing. Yeah. Twist to the right, that was confusing. Bring your hands together in a squat. All right, press your knees together. You can keep your left arm where it is, or you can put your left hand alongside the floor. Take your right hand to your hip, or reach your right arm up. There we go. I think that was a little clearer. Hug your inner thighs together. And then bring your hands back into prayer pose, or into Anjali Mudra. Put your hands on the floor. Lift your hips up. Wide Uttanasana. Bend your knees, put your hands on your hips, draw your elbows towards one another, and stand up. Okay, we're ready. We're ready for the pose. Titi Basana. So you're gonna have a couple of opportunities to practice this. This is a big pose. So you can either go back to one of the things we were doing. You can go to wide-legged again if you want. You can go to a squat if you want. We have lots of poses that came before this pose, all of which are great preps for this. You can also sit and watch, because if you educate your mind, you will also educate your body. And I will say I spent, in my beginning years of practice, a lot of time watching a lot of people do some pretty big poses. So if you just want to watch, that's an opportunity as well.
Or I was going to say, as our teacher says, Christina Sell, deposits in the bank.
Yes, exactly. So if this is a lot for you, recognize that's fine. That it's a big pose. If you want to give it a shot and get courageous and try, then I offer this here for you as well. Okay, here we go. You can have your blocks behind your feet. You don't have to use them, Sue, but as we did in Bujapidasana. So take your feet outer hip distance apart. Bend your knees and place your hands on the floor. And you're scoochie your shoulders way behind your knees. Now, once you get as far in as you're going to get, look at your butt. It's an odd statement, but look at your butt. It'll tuck your chin under, take your chin under, and have you go a little bit deeper. Then do that sit back we've been practicing. We've been practicing it a lot. Flatten your hands. Scoochie your feet together. You can either tap your feet together or, as Sue's doing, push down through your hands and straighten your legs. Use your quads. We've been working our quads the whole time. Use your quads. Yeah, good. And when you're done, you put your feet down. Walk them in. Walk your feet towards your hands. And stand, or fold forward, sorry. Come up. Tittibhasana number 1, right? Yes. Good, well done, really nice. Great, so you see, you gotta have lots of quad work, a lot of hamstring opening, but a lot of power in the quads and the outer hips in order to get the legs straight.
And a lot of pushing down.
And a lot of pushing down, exactly.
Like you're trying to push through sand.
Exactly. All right, good. Ready? Second time. Here we go. Bend your knees and get your shoulders back behind your knees. So Sue's using her hands to really scoochie in. And then place your hands flat. Hands flat or hands on blocks. And look at your butt. Yeah, good. And then sit back, thighs on the shelf of your arms. Good. And then you can either touch your feet together if you want to go to Bujapidasana, or straighten your legs. Use your quads. Tone your quads like crazy. Push down through your hands. Yeah, and then put your feet down. Walk them in. You're going to come into a wide Uttanasana. Or something like that.
Getting weak. Using lots of strength.
Yeah. Inhale, lengthen, look forward. Exhale, bow. Bend your knees. Put your hands on your hips. Elbows towards one another. Lift your chest and stand up. Tittibhasana, check. Good. All right, come to the front of your mat. Put your hands at heart center and pause here. Whatever did or did not happen in the last, few minutes to an hour, let it go. These big poses, they're here to help you step up to the plate. They are not the end. They're not what we're going for. They're not the end all of everything. But they do help us step into our courage. They do help us step into an opportunity to offer our gifts and work harder, be more aware. All right, inhale, take your arms up. That's my pep talk. It might be late. Reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, hands to heart center. One more time. Inhale, step up. Stretch up. Exhale, hands to heart center. One more time, I lied. Inhale, take your arms up. And exhale, fold Uttanasana all the way down, touch your mat. Inhale, lengthen, look forward. Exhale, step your left foot back. Put your back knee down. Grab a blanket if you need it. Throw it underneath your knee. Shift your hips forward. Yeah, get into the front hip flexors. Press down through the back foot. Drag your right heel towards your back knee. And then walk your right foot to the right slightly. Bring your hands to the inside of your foot. Stay up on your hands or come down onto your forearms or blocks. We did this at the very beginning, so we're back kind of where we started. Hug your legs in towards one another. Now you can stay here if you'd like to, or you can come up onto your hands, bend your back leg, reach back with your right hand and take a quad stretch. So reach your right hand to the outside of your left foot and turn your chest. Bring your heel towards your butt. So I'm more interested in the quad stretch here than the back bend because I want us to get into, we've been working the quads really, really hard. So I want the opportunity to open those up. Exhale, release that. And bring your right hand down and step back into down dog. Step your left hand forward in between your left foot forward in between your hands.
I gotta fix my blanket.
Yeah,
first.
get the props ready. And put your back knee down. And pause here before we go into the wider lunge, before we start to twist. Just pause here. And then turn your toe or walk your foot to the left slightly, and then come down on hands, forearms, or forearms on block or forearms to the floor. You can stay here or come onto your hands, bend your back leg. Reach back with your left hand to the outside of your right foot. And draw your heel towards your butt and your butt towards your heel. And yeah, good. And then shift the whole unit forward. Get into the quad. Press down through the inner edge of your left foot just as much as you press through the outer edge of your left foot. So it's evenly balanced there. One more breath here. And then release your left hand down. Step back into down dog. Take your knees down to the mat. Lay on your back. So you're going to do a few bridge, or you have the option for Urdhva Dhanurasana if that's what you choose. This was not a back bend class. We did lots and lots of forward bending here. So this is more of a counter pose in order to get into the front body. So if you are tight in the front body and a back bend, a bridge, or an Urdhva Dhanurasana doesn't feel great right now, know that this is not a back bend class, and that's you can stay here if you want to stay here. But we'll start with bridge. So take your palms closer to your body, Sue, and down on the floor. Yeah. Set your feet hip distance in parallel. Walk your shoulders in towards one another. And then inhale and lift your hips, bridge pose. Drag your heels towards your shoulders until your hamstrings turn on. But then also push down and forward with your feet so you feel your quads and your knees lengthen towards the front of your mat. Exhale, release your hips down. You can do this pose again. Or if you have Urdhva Dhanurasana in your practice and you want to put your hands for Urdhva Dhanurasana, you can do that. Sue's going to choose that variation, but you can also do bridge with your hands alongside your hips. So if you have your hands alongside your hips, press down through your hands, inhale, lift your hips. For Urdhva Dhanurasana, Sue, walk your feet, close, never mind, all right. For Urdhva Dhanurasana, inhale, come to, place your hands and come up. Yeah, feet a little closer together. Push down and forward, yeah, good. If you're in bridge with your hips lifted, you can scoochie your shoulders together and take a clasp underneath your back, or you can keep your hands pressing down into the mat. If you have your hands clasped in bridge, release them, and everybody can exhale and come down. If you're in Urdhva, tuck your chin and come down. Stretch your legs long out in front. Stretch your arms up overhead. We're not done yet, but one more. Bring your hands alongside your body. Bend your knees. Place your feet flat on the floor. And again, you can have palms down. You can use robot arms for bridge, or you can place your hands for Urdhva Dhanurasana. full wheel. So you can put your fingertips towards your shoulders, hands flat on the floor. Wherever you're at, inhale, lift your hips. If you're going to Urdhva, come on up. Again, this isn't a back bend class, so I'm not necessarily teaching Urdhva Dhanurasana. We may do that later at some point. Press your feet down and forward. Drag your heels back. And notice it's like a dimmer switch for your quads and your hamstrings. And find that spot that's good for you. Pressing down and forward with your feet for your quads, pulling back for your hamstrings. And as you're ready, release your hips down. Set your feet as wide as your mat. Touch your knees together. Put your hands on your belly or somewhere around there. And breathe. And pause. Straighten both of your legs. Draw your right knee into your chest like we did at the very beginning of class. Take your hands around the front of your shin. You can keep your knee kind of straight on, or if you want to take it wide, take your knee over to the right toward your armpit. You can do half happy baby like Sue is doing, or you can keep your shin, whatever feels good to you. Gently release your right leg and straighten your right leg down towards the left leg. Take your left knee into your chest and release your hands around the front of your shin. Pause here in the more narrow version if that feels okay for you. Otherwise, well then, take your knee out to the left. You can keep hold of the shin here, or you can grab the outer edge of your foot into half happy baby. Release your left foot down to meet your right. Draw your knees into your chest. One more, sorry. And you can stay here or curl your nose to your knees to your nose. Stay here or grab the outer edges of your feet for a full happy baby. Pull your hands into your feet into your hands. You can have a more dynamic happy baby if you want to rock side to side if that feels good. But you can also try a more stable happy baby where you press your hips down towards the floor. And release your feet. Shavasana. Scan your body for any places where you might be hanging on to, gripping. Check your feet, your legs, your pelvis, your belly, and relax, release. If you're holding on to any tension in your chest, in your arms, and in your hands, let that go. Relax your neck and your face and your jaw. Release any tension that you might be holding in between your eyebrows, around your eyes. Let go of any tension in the forehead and in the scalp, the back of the head. And shift your awareness from your head down into your heart space, where all of the courage that you brought forth on your mat today resides and comes from. Begin to deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Stretch your arms overhead. Roll to your side and pause. Use both hands, come back to a seated position. Keep your eyes closed and your hands at heart center. We'll close with 3 cleansing breaths. Exhale your breath out. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Inhale through your nose. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. The courage we cultivate here on our mat isn't always about the courage to do big poses and big things. Sometimes it's the courage to stay put, to stay where you're at, to meet yourself where you're at, wherever that may be on your mat, and to do the work there. Thank you so much for joining me in this practice. The divine light in me bows the divine light in you. Namaste.
Namaste.